Police say 26-year-old Matthew Ethington shot 22-year-old Maria Martin multiple times before turning the gun on himself. There have been 3 murders in Metro Detroit in as many weeks, including in Shelby Township and Taylor, all involving couples in their 20s.
And now this latest case in Livonia. The Detroit police officers were on the force for less than 5 years. So many questions and a lot of hurt tonight.
When Officer Maria Martin tried to end her relationship, she couldn't have known it would cost her life. On a cold February afternoon in 2023, the 22-year-old Detroit police officer's body was discovered in a Livonia condominium, riddled with multiple gunshot wounds. Nearby lay the body of her boyfriend, 26-year-old Matthew Ethington II, another Detroit police officer, dead from a single self-inflicted gunshot wound. Their 1-year-old son was found unharmed in another room, too young to understand the violence that had just shattered his future. The very training and tools meant to protect the public became weapons of destruction. For Maria Martin, the decision to break free from her relationship became a death sentence. The crisis of separation transformed a fellow officer from protector to predator. We understand policemen are humans after all, but what pushes someone sworn to protect and serve to shoot his own lover, the mother of his baby? Have you ever wondered what drives someone to kill the person they claim to love? Share your thoughts below. But what makes this case particularly haunting isn't just what happened that day. It's what happened afterward. As investigators closed the case, labeling it a straightforward murder-suicide, one mother refused to accept the official narrative. She began asking questions that would uncover disturbing inconsistencies about what really happened in that Livonia condo, and what she discovered might change everything we thought we knew about Maria Martin's final moments. What if the person who pulled the trigger wasn't who everyone thought? What if the evidence tells a completely different story than the one in the official police report? Stay with me as we reveal what happened between the two. Welcome to Crazy Dark Files, where we shed light on the darkest true crime stories to help raise awareness and promote safety. By liking this video, sharing, and subscribing to this channel, you're helping raise awareness, spread caution, and maybe even save someone else from the same fate. Don't just scroll past. Be the reason someone stays safe.
I spoke with a neighbor of Maria Martin and Matthew Ethington II. That neighbor did not want to go on camera. However, he describes them as good people, 2 people who served on the force here at DPD, and he did not see this coming.
The dynamics of most domestic abusers are domination, manipulation, and control. And as long as they can control the other person, the relationship stays intact.
Maria Martin wasn't meant to become a headline. At just 22 years old, she had established herself within the Detroit Police Department, joining their ranks at only 19. Her path to law enforcement stemmed from personal tragedy. When Maria was 14, her father fell victim to a violent home invasion that left him permanently paralyzed. Watching her once independent father confined to a wheelchair transformed Maria's worldview and shaped her future. "I want to protect people," she told her mother Tracy when announcing her decision to enter the police academy. "I don't want other families to experience what we did." Maria excelled through training, earning commendations during her 3 years of service while raising 2 young sons. Her older child came from a previous relationship, while her 1-year-old son was shared with fellow officer Matthew Ethington II. At 26, Ethington had served 4 years with the department, working in the 9th Precinct while Maria was assigned to the 12th. Colleagues knew him as reserved yet capable, maintaining a clean service record with a reputation for dependability. His supervisors had recently put his name forward for specialized training, seeing his potential for advancement. Detroit Police Chief James White described both officers as exemplary employees with bright futures ahead. "These were 2 young people who embodied what we seek in officers," he explained during a press conference following their deaths. Dedicated, hardworking, and committed to making Detroit safer. Their relationship began approximately 2 years earlier. 2 young officers who understood the unique demands of police work, supporting each other through professional challenges. Social media showed happy images, the couple in uniform, proud parents at their son's first birthday, family gatherings where they appeared to be building their future together. Yet, beneath this public image, tensions were mounting. In the months before the tragedy, friends noticed changes. Maria had spoken to her mother and several close colleagues about wanting to end the relationship. Messages from her phone revealed she had started apartment hunting, looking at furniture, and had told Matthew she needed independence. No one fully grasped how dangerous this decision would become, as police officers both were trained to identify threats, except when those threats existed in their own home. The professional skills that made Matthew effective on duty, tactical awareness, weapons training, and situational control, became dangerous assets when his relationship began to deteriorate. What few people knew was that Maria had recently begun documenting concerning behaviors, keeping notes in her phone and confiding in her mother about increasing possessiveness. She had started taking precautions, changing routines, being vague about her plans, behaviors typical of someone who feels unsafe but isn't ready to admit the full extent of their situation. The couple's colleagues missed these dynamics entirely. The department, despite having domestic violence protocols, never had cause to implement them. Their relationship problems remained private until that February afternoon, when everything culminated in violence that left a 1-year-old boy without parents and 2 families searching for answers that seemed increasingly elusive with each passing day. When Maria Martin told Matthew Ethington she wanted to end their relationship, she crossed an invisible line that experts recognize as the most dangerous moment in abusive relationships. 3 weeks before their deaths, Maria had finally gathered the courage to tell Matthew it was over. She'd secured a new apartment, arranged childcare, and planned her exit. Steps that domestic violence advocates recommend. What she couldn't have anticipated was how quickly the situation would deteriorate. The period immediately following a breakup represents the highest risk interval, explains Dr. Kenneth Wolfe, forensic psychologist who specializes in law enforcement psychology. When someone with control issues loses that control, their thinking often shifts to, if I can't have her, no one can. This possessive mindset becomes particularly dangerous when combined with access to weapons and tactical training. Text messages recovered from Maria's phone reveal a disturbing pattern in the days following her announcement. Matthew's communications shifted from pleading to demanding, with messages like, "You're not taking my son, and you'll regret this decision." Friends reported that Maria had begun taking precautions, varying her routes home, checking in with family regularly, and expressing concerns about Matthew's increasingly unpredictable behavior. The tragedy echoes a 2009 case that haunted the Detroit Police Department. Officer Ed Williams shot and killed his estranged wife, Patricia, also an officer, before taking his own life after she filed for divorce.
We are learning more about this couple. They shared 2 kids together, including a 1-year-old that was there at the time of the shooting. Sources tell us there were some domestic issues between them, but nothing to suggest a murder-suicide is how this would end.
Since this has happened, I've scoured every document that we have involving the officers, and nothing jumps out at you at all. Model officers, no issues.
22-year-old Maria Martin and Matthew Ethington with Detroit police for less than 4 years, discovered dead Sunday at their condo in Livonia at 6 Mile and Farmington. Police there calling this a murder-suicide. 26-year-old Ethington apparently shot his former girlfriend multiple times before pulling the trigger on himself.
That case prompted departmental reforms, including enhanced psychological screening and support services, measures that evidently failed to prevent history from repeating itself. What makes these situations particularly complex within law enforcement is the professional culture itself. Officers face unique barriers to seeking help for personal problems, fearing career repercussions if they acknowledge relationship difficulties or emotional struggles. Police officers are trained to be in control, to handle crisis situations, to be the ones providing help rather than seeking it, notes former police psychologist Dr. Melissa Hernandez. This creates a perfect storm when personal relationships deteriorate. Many officers worry that admitting to domestic problems could trigger duty restrictions or affect their standing with colleagues.
Police officers are regular people, and they have problems, and they have, they need help like anyone else. And this situation highlights that.
Sadly, at the home at the time of the shooting, their 1-year-old child who is not hurt.
All the children are going to have some emotional recovery that they have to deal with. But here they are without a mom and dad, and someone's got to explain to them what happened.
Detroit Police Chief James White says their department is taking it hard and are looking to learn from the tragedy.
We'll certainly be looking at anything internally that we can do to help our officers who may find themselves in a domestic situation or something along those lines.
Sources tell Fox 2 there was a recent breakup and some fallout after that, but this was unexpected, to say the least.
Department records show neither Martin nor Ethington had utilized the psychological services available to them. Colleagues reported no awareness of relationship troubles, though Maria's mother would later reveal her daughter had been increasingly anxious about Matthew's behavior in the weeks before her death. Perhaps most troubling were the warning signs that, in retrospect, appear obvious. Maria had recently changed the password on her phone. She'd begun leaving her service weapon in her locker at work rather than bringing it home. She'd asked a colleague about restraining order procedures. Hypothetically, she'd said, each action represented a small red flag that, when viewed collectively, painted a picture of escalating concern. For officers trained to detect danger, the inability to recognize or address these dynamics in their own relationships represents a tragic blind spot. The very qualities that make effective police officers, hypervigilance, tactical thinking, and decisive action, can transform into lethal liabilities when relationships disintegrate. The case raises uncomfortable questions about whether police departments across the country are doing enough to address domestic violence within their ranks. Are psychological screenings sufficient? Do officers have genuine access to confidential help? And most importantly, could Maria Martin's death have been prevented if different systems had been in place? What state or country are you watching from? Share your thoughts below. February 19, 2023 began as an ordinary Sunday. For Maria Martin and Matthew Ethington, it would be their final day. That morning, Maria was in contact with her mother, Tracy Martin. According to police reports, Tracy had spoken with her daughter early that morning and could hear Maria and Matthew arguing before the call abruptly ended. This was the last time they spoke. Throughout the day, Tracy tried repeatedly to reach her daughter. When Maria failed to respond to calls and texts, concern grew. Unable to make contact, Tracy eventually went to Matthew's Livonia townhome to check on her daughter. Upon arriving at the residence in the 16,000 block of Farmington Road, Tracy flagged down a Livonia police officer. She explained her concerns and provided a garage door opener that allowed officers to enter the home. Inside, police made a devastating discovery. Maria Martin lay deceased in the living room with multiple gunshot wounds. Matthew Ethington was found nearby with a single, fatal gunshot wound to the head that appeared self-inflicted. 2 handguns and multiple shell casings were scattered throughout the living room. In what officers described as the master bedroom, they found the couple's 1-year-old son, Matthew Charles Ethington III. The child was unharmed physically but distressed, wearing a heavily soiled diaper. He had been alone with his parents' bodies for an undetermined period. The baby appeared to be uninjured and was walking around near the foot of the bed, the responding officer wrote in his report. The child was immediately removed from the scene and placed in the care of family members. News of the deaths sent shockwaves through the Detroit Police Department. Officers began gathering outside the condominium complex, forming an impromptu vigil. Many came directly from their shifts, still in uniform. Detroit Police Chief James White arrived at the scene and addressed the media. "Today is a sad day for our department," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "Senseless tragedy. We're going to find out exactly what happened as the investigation unfolds." The department activated its peer support team and made counselors available at both precincts where Matthew and Maria had worked. Black bands appeared across badges throughout the department as officers mourned their fallen colleagues. For investigators, the scene initially appeared to be a tragic case of domestic violence, culminating in murder-suicide. The evidence suggested that Ethington had shot Martin multiple times before turning the gun on himself. Yet as the investigation continued, questions would emerge about what truly happened in those final moments. Questions that would lead one family to challenge the official narrative and seek answers beyond what the initial investigation revealed. The official investigation into the deaths of Maria Martin and Matthew Ethington moved with remarkable speed. Within 72 hours, Livonia Police Department had classified the case as a murder-suicide, concluding that Ethington, unable to accept the end of their relationship, had shot Martin multiple times before turning his service weapon on himself. All evidence points to a domestic situation that escalated to violence. Livonia Police Captain Robert Nangiarini told reporters at a press conference. Text messages recovered from both phones indicate increasing hostility following Officer Martin's decision to end the relationship. The department cited jealousy as the primary motive. Investigators found messages on Ethington's phone suggesting he believed Martin was seeing someone else, a fellow officer from her precinct. Friends later confirmed Martin had begun spending time with this colleague, though only after telling Ethington their relationship was over. Case closed. Another tragic statistic in the grim tally of domestic violence deaths. Another example of separation violence, the deadly risk that comes when attempting to leave a controlling partner. Except one person refused to accept this narrative. Matthew's mother, Danielle Williams. My son was not violent. He was not possessive. This story they're telling doesn't match the Matthew I knew, Williams insisted in an interview with local media. Her doubts led her to take an extraordinary step, commissioning an independent autopsy of her son's body before burial. The results raised troubling questions. The independent pathologist noted inconsistencies with the official report, particularly regarding the angle of the gunshot wound and gunshot residue patterns. The trajectory of the bullet is not consistent with typical self-inflicted wounds, the report stated, and the distribution of gunshot residue suggests the weapon was fired from a distance greater than arm's length. Williams also pointed to other details that didn't align with the murder-suicide theory. Matthew's phone contained no threatening messages toward Maria. His browser history showed searches for engagement rings, not weapons or violence. And perhaps most puzzling, why would he kill himself in a way that left his son alone with two dead bodies? Despite these questions, the Livonia Police Department stood firm. The case was officially closed in April 2023, with the Wayne County Medical Examiner supporting the murder-suicide finding. Department spokesperson Jennifer Walling stated, "We conducted a thorough investigation and stand by our conclusions. This case, while tragic, is not ambiguous." For the Detroit Police Department, the official narrative provided closure. A terrible event with a clear explanation. Officers could mourn their colleagues and move forward. But for two families, the story was far from over. Maria's mother accepted the findings, focusing her energy on raising her daughter's sons and establishing a foundation to help officers experiencing domestic violence. Matthew's family took a different path, hiring attorneys and filing Freedom of Information Act requests for complete case files, body camera footage, and forensic reports. Something happened in that apartment that doesn't match the official story, Williams maintains. My son and Maria deserve the truth, whatever it is. Her persistence has begun to attract attention. 3 retired detectives have volunteered to review the case. A true crime podcast recently featured the story, raising public awareness about the alleged inconsistencies, and a forensic specialist from the University of Michigan has offered to analyze the ballistics evidence independently. What really happened between these two young officers? Was this a clear-cut case of murder-suicide, or is there more to the story that hasn't been told? As Matthew's family continues their quest for answers, one question looms largest. What if the official version of events is wrong? The deaths of Maria Martin and Matthew Ethington represent more than just a personal tragedy. They expose the hidden dangers of domestic violence within law enforcement. In the aftermath, experts have pointed to warning signs that often go unrecognized. Sudden withdrawal from social activities, increasing isolation, and escalating arguments that may be witnessed but rarely reported. The deaths of these two young officers serve as a painful reminder of the importance of speaking up, seeking help, and creating systems where those in dangerous situations can find safety before it's too late. Maria Martin's locker at the 12th Precinct remains untouched. Her uniform still hangs inside, her badge number 2217, now retired. A photo of her son sits on the shelf, a reminder of what was lost and what remains. She was exceptional, says Sergeant James Wilkins, who supervised Maria during her 3 years on the force. The kind of officer who genuinely wanted to make a difference. She joined because of what happened to her father, and every day she brought that purpose to the job. In the wake of her death, Maria's legacy lives on through her 2 young sons, now being raised by her mother, Tracy. The older boy sometimes wears a toy police badge, telling strangers his mommy was a hero. The younger one, just a baby when he lost both parents, will know his mother only through stories and photographs. I tell them every day how brave their mother was, Tracy says, not just as an officer, but as a woman who tried to protect herself and her children. I want them to grow up understanding both her courage and the system that failed her. The Detroit Police Department has implemented changes following the tragedy, including enhanced psychological support services and domestic violence awareness training. Chief White has acknowledged the need for a culture shift within law enforcement, one that recognizes vulnerability as strength, not weakness. We're trained to run toward danger, to be the ones who handle crisis, he explains. But that mindset can make it nearly impossible to admit when we're in crisis ourselves. Maria's death has forced us to confront that contradiction. For the families left behind, questions linger. For the department, wounds slowly heal. And for communities across America, the case serves as a stark reminder that those who protect us sometimes need protection themselves, from dangers both external and internal. The true measure of Maria Martin's impact may not be in how she died, but in how her story might save others. If one officer seeks help because of what happened to her, if one department improves its support systems, if one family recognizes warning signs before tragedy strikes, then perhaps meaning can be found in the senseless. If this story impacted you, please hit the like button and subscribe to Crazy Dark Files. What do you think could have prevented this tragedy? Let me know in the comments.